What is going on, everyone? It's Ultimate Spy 53 here, and welcome to another episode of Reviewed number 153. And today I'm going to be reviewing Inspector Gadget 2, the direct-to-video sequel to Inspector Gadget. So, what did I think of Inspector Gadget 2? I thought it was okay. Honestly, I did. That's all I can say. It was okay. It was... I don't know. I thought the first one was good, but this one was just... I don't know. There was a lot more going on in this one, but I don't know. It wasn't my favorite of the two that they made, because they only made two of them. I mean, there's technically supposed to be a reboot in the works somehow. I know it was like a rebooted series, but apparently they're making another movie. I don't know when it's going to happen. But as far as this one goes, it wasn't awful. I just didn't think it was as good as the first one. And that's mainly because none of the original cast returned. Kind of like with a movie that I never saw and I never wanted to see it, called Diary of a Wimpy Kid: The Long Haul, which was based off of I think it was the 9th book or something like that. It skipped like 4 books, and they recast everybody. It was horrible. I mean, like, seriously, it's ridiculous. So, kind of the same idea. With this one, they recast everybody, but they only had one character return from the original movie in terms of the actor. The actor who played the Gadgetmobile is back, but that's about it. That's the only character that returns in the movie who is actually voiced by the same actor, and that's just, like, so stupid. But I don't know. I definitely thought it was interesting. It was... I don't know. It kind of reminded me of Spy Kids. I think I mentioned that in my review for the first one. The fact that it kind of reminded me of Spy Kids a lot because of the cinematography, the goofy stuff, the gadgets, clearly. But even then, it did have a Spy Kids vibe to it, definitely. Just in general, the way that the movie was made just kind of felt like that. And I did not like the cast. The cast was awful. It did not fit well. I mean, French Stewart, he just doesn't seem like he would be a good fit for the character of Inspector Gadget. I mean, Matthew Broderick, he nailed the part. He was fantastic. He was very amazing in that role, and they recast everybody. It was just like the worst thing ever. So I did not like any of the actors who played the characters in this movie. Like, none of the original cast returned, which is ridiculous. Like, they want to make a sequel to a movie, I mean, I got some money, but also, like, seriously, you could just have made a rebooted movie, or you could just have done a TV show. It's not that hard. You can easily do that. But still, I did not like the casting. Seriously. Like, why would they do that? Also, it kind of reminded me of that, because only the cast returned, they didn't bring back Brenda Bradford, who is the love interest from the first film. And at the end of the first film, we see that she is, with Inspector Gadget, they're a thing, but that's it, basically. In the second one, they don't even acknowledge it. It's like, yeah, whatever, it didn't happen. And so, because of that, I guess that G2, the newer version of Gadget, is basically Brenda's replacement, I guess, because she's like the new love interest for him. I don't know exactly. Like, she's played by an actress that I thought was actually Missy Pie, but it's a different actress. They look very similar, but they're very different characters. I think the actual name of the actress is Elaine Hendricks. I'm pretty sure she was in The Parent Trap. She looks very similar to Missy Pie, which is very weird. But even then, it's like this you got this attractive police robot person gadget thingy, and it's like, yeah, that's the replacement for Brenda Bradford. I just didn't understand it. Like, this is the thing with sequels, is that some sequels like this one, they don't even acknowledge the first one. They kind of acknowledge what happened at the end of the first one. Like, oh, we put Claw away, but that's about it. Like, it doesn't really acknowledge anything in terms of the characters that were involved in the previous movie. Just brush over. It's like, yeah, whatever. Nothing really happened. And that's the problem with a lot of sequels these days that are, well, a lot of the sequels from the 90s and early 2000s that did not receive well in terms of ones that went to direct to video. they don't do well. Like, because this was a direct-to-video, it wasn't as good. I'm not saying a lot because the first one got worse reviews than this one, and this one was just, ugh. I tolerated it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was good in its own way. I did like some aspects of it, but most of it I just didn't call for. Mainly because it's a standalone sequel, and because of that, none of the cast returns. That's why it was so. Well, it was awful. I just didn't think it was as good. And I definitely think that the only good thing about the movie was Bruce Spence. He's one of my favorite New Zealand actors. He was in Legend of the Seeker. He was in Lord of the Rings. He played the Mouth of Sauron. He's been in a lot of things. He's New Zealand and he's quite amazing. But my favorite role he's done is Zed. I'm actually rewatching that series, and he was the only aspect of the movie that I actually liked. Most of that I just didn't really hook me. But he was great. He played the Doctor. I guess he's like Brenda Bradford's replacement. I'm pretty sure. I don't know how it works. He invented the G2 program essentially. So I'm guessing he's like Brenda Bradford's replacement. I don't know what exactly, because they didn't acknowledge what happened to the first one. So it's like, what happened to her? What's this new guy? I don't know, but I still like him. He's a fantastic actor, and I just love his work. I just love Bruce Spence in general. He's just great. Like I never know when he's gonna be in a movie that I'm watching. Like, oh, it's Bruce Spence. That's cool. He's in there. But he was a good part of the movie. My favorite part of the movie definitely got to be the science convention, or at least, well, it's not really much of a convention. It's more like a center, kind of like this Pacific Science Center. Not really a convention, just like a large room with the brain food section for getting your food, and then just basically just inventions. It's basically just a room where people show off their inventions. It's not much of a convention really. If they call it that, it's just tiny. But that was my favorite scene because when they say science, it does not mean science fiction. I mean, I think they alluded to like Star Trek a little bit there, but it's not much of anything kind of like science fiction at all. It's literally just science. Like all these kinds of new inventions, like cloning, which is impossible. Pretty sure, but it was my favorite part because I love science. I'm very fascinated by science. I don't understand all of it, but I do like science, and it was very interesting that they did that. That they had that in there. It was a really fun scene. I liked it a lot. Especially Bruce Spence's character. I forgot his name, and he attempts to invent, or I think he ends up working in the end, a dog translator that translates to what dogs say. That was a really cool thing. But in general, that was just a really good part of the movie. That's like the only thing. That's actually the only thing I really did like about the movie. The rest of it, I don't know, kind of got boring after a while. And one of the things I was complaining about in the first movie is the fact that the Gadget suit is not really accurate to the cartoon at all. In the cartoon, as far as I know, I've seen like a little bit of it, just a tiny bit. And so with that one, they have like a trench coat, and in this movie they have a trench coat too. But the first movie did not have a trench coat. It was literally just a cream colored big suit jacket or sports jacket, which is like it wasn't even close to the cartoon. And the fact that they got it right this time, they got the jacket right. It's actually pretty good. The fact that they did that, I mean, although unless you look at the cover art, like the DVD cover art, which has, you compare the first movie and the second movie, the DVD cover arts, they have the same coat, literally the same coat. And then look at this movie, and it's like, well, the coat is very different. The coat is more cartoon accurate. It's just like, that's like bad advertising right there. That's like bad poster making right there. If you have a coat that does not match the coat in the movie, what the hell? You have to do it right. Someone's gotten fired. They didn't really pay attention to the detail. I mean, I'm someone who pays attention to detail. I'm like, what? That's not right. The jacket's not right. That's not how it's supposed to look. They messed up a little bit. One of the, I guess, running gag in the movie was the fact that Inspector Gadget had a lot of issues, a lot of bad luck. He would just do things that were just like things he didn't realize he had done. One of the biggest things was like him losing control in the science convention under Dr. Claw's control, basically. One of the, I guess it's supposed to be like a funny thing, is like he always ends up messing up. Like at the beginning of the movie, he arrests the chief's mother for speeding a 0.3 miles over the speed limit, arresting Girl Scouts that are selling cookies that are 3 days past expiration date, makes no sense. So yeah, I think it was meant to just be comedic moments there, like to just show that, oh yeah, Inspector Gadget is not all that amazing at his work. You know, he's not all that smart. He ends up doing all this crazy stuff, and it ends up being all bad luck. He ends up screwing everything up. So that's the thing I really noticed with the movie was just he was having a lot of bad luck. Another kind of running gag in the movie was a lot of "that's what I just said" jokes. So it's kind of like throughout the movie we see a lot of characters say that, like, you know, that they say the obvious thing is like, that's what I just said. So it was kind of meant to be a comedic moment, I guess. Again, there's a lot of comedic moments in this movie, but yeah, that was definitely one of them that made it kind of like that. It just kind of, yeah, it's obvious. And one of the things that Gadget was having a lot of issues with his gadgets. It was getting them all wrong. I think there was a bit of an issue in the previous film. He finally got it under control, but it was still a big problem. Is the fact he's a prototype, and the fact that towards the end of the movie, G2 actually gives Inspector Gadget her chip so that he can, you know, function right. And again, the biggest problem of him was the fact that his guidance weren't working properly. So he would get something else completely different than what he was supposed to get. But although what's interesting is that G2 kind of made use of mistakes that the chip had. You know, if something went wrong, it's like, oh, that's nifty. Like, she would say, go Gadget, this thing. And it would be the complete opposite. It would still work pretty well, though. Which was interesting. Kind of, I guess it's kind of like a thing like, oh yeah, Gadget always has glitches. It's just the way it is. And one of the really amazing things about Brain, the dog, I love Brain. He's fantastic. So it's after a scene where Penny cries after Gadget is, like, you know, not believing in her. She cries for a bit, and then Brain gets like the evidence shoe, and immediately after that she just stops crying. So I kind of like that. I like the fact that Brain is very smart, and he's able to get out of a funk. That's why dogs are awesome, because they're so helpful. They get you out of funks very easily, and they're man's best friends. That's why that's why I liked Brain a lot. He was a very, very good dog. I don't think he had much to do in the first movie though. I don't know. I think he was still very smart in the first movie. I just feel like he had more to do in this movie. Kind of like with Penny. Honestly, yeah, Penny had a lot more to do in the movie. I feel like in the first movie she wasn't really doing much at all. She didn't really have a purpose just to be a Penny. Besides that, I mean, she was still heavily in the movie. But she wasn't really doing much in the movie. So the fact that she was like doing her own little thing, like she was investigating on her own and doing all this stuff, and I liked it a lot. I liked the fact that she was very smart, you know, very intelligent, is very into science, all that stuff, and very, very brainy, all that stuff. And I just like, you know, she's cool. You know, she's a very, very smart girl. I like that. You know, the previous Penny, which I prefer actually, mainly because she's a lot prettier and also helps Claw's minion in the first movie kind of like turn good again. Basically, I will admit I did like the previous Penny because yeah, they recast everybody so they have a new Penny. I don't want the new Penny, but I like her motivation. I like her personality. I like the fact that she's like able to do more stuff, which is good. But I so prefer the original Penny because she's prettier, and I just like her attitude, and she makes everything great, I guess. I don't know. I just like the original one. And one scene that I didn't understand at all, because it literally breaks the laws of physics, is a scene, basically like a montage of showing Inspector Gadget, you know, trying out different jobs. And during that montage, we see Claw's minions basically break into a storage area or whatever, and tiptoe across a gated fence, like a chain link fence, with a box, like a large wooden box. That's not physically possible. You can't do that. You'd fall. Literally, you would fall over it. It's like, I mean, clearly it's not meant to obey the laws of physics, but like, seriously, that's not possible. You can't actually do that. Yeah, not every movie sequel is perfect. God, no, this was not a great sequel, honestly. But it was just like, it blows me away that would kind of be in the film. Is like, oh yeah, that can totally happen. It really wouldn't happen. You can't physically do that. It's like, oh, we're gonna sit tiptoe across the fence here, no problem. With a big box carrying over, like, how? There's no way you could do that. It's physically, not scientifically possible to do that. Yeah, the film has issues. And one thing about this movie, in terms of the villain Claw, is that In the cartoon, as far as I know, I looked it up. Apparently, this sequel was meant to kind of go more to the original cartoon, and the fact that Claw's face was never seen. Well, never seen. It was. Just not all the time. I mean, you kind of get little bits of his face, but it's like, it was kind of a fail where it's like, because Claw's face never revealed, like, well, you can see his face, you just can't see all of it. Like, seriously, you can see a little, you can, like, there's a part of it, there's one thing where you can see his eyes a little bit, and the rest of his face was like, basically, it's like, yeah, you can see Claw, right, you can see him, like, I mean, again, the original show was meant to, like, show you can't see Claw, you can't see who's behind everything, you know, behind the mastermind of all these evil plans and all that stuff. I just, like, seriously? That's a fail? This movie failed. It was not a great sequel, to be honest with you. And the fact that they decided to try to, like, hide his face. I mean, they did a pretty good job of, like, not showing the entire face, but, like, seriously, when Claw is never shown, if it was his Claw, you failed because you still see Claw, you just don't see all of it. We get to see him enough to, like, see what he kind of looks like. He's a bit, you know, obese. Kind of like the original movie where he said he was originally obese. So I guess it was meant to be like the fact that Claw in the original cartoon was obese. I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing that's what it's supposed to represent. I don't know. And one of the really interesting things about this movie, I mean, obviously G2 is like the love interest to Inspector Gadget in this movie, but she finally has human emotions. She's like a tiny bit of human emotion in this because when she is informed that she's going to be deactivated by Chief, she sheds a tear, and she realizes that she actually does have human emotion. Like a tiny bit of her is human, which is very interesting because she's all robot, but yet she sheds a tear. She does like have at the end of the movie, she does have a romantic interest in Gadget, which is very interesting. Like the fact that she's a robot and she can still have emotion, or she chooses not to have emotion or something like that. It's like, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Another thing I did not like about this movie was Inspector Gadget. I just did not like how he was written. In the first one, he horrible thing happens to him. He makes sure that he can do all he can to get back at the bad guy or whatever. In this movie, he's fired. I'm not a better Gadget anymore. I'm just waiting around for Cloud win. So kind of in that way, it kind of feels like Infinity War, where Thanos wins and then the Avengers have to reset everything and reverse all the damage that's been done. Kind of like with this movie where it's like they let Claw win, but they were able to reverse it still. So with this one, I just didn't like how he was written. It's like he doesn't really feel like he can do really anything. He's like, I'm not Inspector Gadget anymore, so I'm just do whatever. And it's like I feel like he wasn't really trying really. Like he couldn't do anything really. I just didn't like that at all. Just like that's not Inspector Gadget at all. And last but not least, the casting. I mentioned it several times in this review, but the casting was just not good. It was so bad. It's like, when you have a sequel like this, where you have decided to recast everybody, it just does not work. It failed for Wimpy Kid 4, or I guess that's the movie. I never saw it, I just saw the trailer, it looked awful. If a trailer looks awful, then you know it's not something you want to watch. And I just cannot believe what they would do. Why would they recast everybody except for one actor? It's like, but what's the point of making the movie then? I just didn't understand. I just, Inspector Gadget wasn't cast right. They didn't have a good Penny. Amadou was a lot smarter and, able to do more things on her own. But seriously, Tube was recast. Mary Wilson was recast. Just like, what is happening? I don't get it. I was not happy with this movie in terms of the casting. It just had some of the worst casting ever. Some of the names I didn't even know who they were. The only two people I really recognized was Bruce Spence and Leigh Hendricks. I'm pretty sure that's literally all I recognize. That's like, ugh. But still, I did like some of it. I did like the Bruce Spence stuff and these are the gadgets and I thought, I thought it was interesting to have a female Gadget person. That was interesting. The music is nice, it's catchy, it's cool. The Science Convention is always my favorite scene, but it just wasn't a good sequel. It just wasn't. It was standalone, means it didn't really connect well with the first one, except for a little bit. It's just like, seriously, if you're gonna make a sequel, don't recast everybody. Just not make a sequel. If no one can return, don't make a sequel. It's like, seriously, it makes no sense. It's kind of like James Bond, where you recast Bond, except you have most of the actors back except Bond. That's fine. But this is like, no. Anyway, I'm gonna leave this here. I'm gonna give this movie a, well, I did like some of it, so I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, I usually give movies pretty high scores, but this movie was just not great, so I'm gonna give it that, because that's decent. It wasn't a perfect film. It wasn't. It wasn't awful, but it was just not great. Didn't think it was. I personally liked the first one better because it really showed you the origin of all the characters, and it just had a better cast. But this one they just didn't even try. They could have, but they didn't. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. 5 out of 10. That's all I can say about Inspector Gadget 2. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Reviewed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. I really do appreciate the support. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more episodes of this series and of the series that I do, as well as other great content. Also, make sure you click that bell to enable alerts so you don't miss some uploads. And I'll be back next time with another episode. Alright? See ya.